7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1.
Coming soon. Snake River Manufacturing is developing a revolutionary new way to design and build a custom kayak trailer. This modular design lets you customize your trailer one piece at a time, allowing you to grow as you go.
You know, a lot of folks think gorillas can't read. But when the magazine's this good, even I had to subscribe.
Hello, everyone. Thank you for joining me for episode 38 of the Kayak Cafe. This episode and every episode for 2025 is brought to you by Snake River Manufacturing. If you go to chance, please go to snakerivermanufacturing.us and check out all of the cool kayak trailers that Steve and his crew are making. There's only one way to get your kayak to the water in style, and Snake River Manufacturing happens to be it. So this is also brought to you by Viking Kayaks USA. Go check them out. They have some great paddlecraft. I think that you will definitely enjoy the lineup if you like to get out and paddle in some rougher water. It's built for that. So, all right. On this episode, I have a gentleman that I met at a local store. Every time I go in, it's a nice smiling face trying to help and point everyone in the right direction. So without further ado, I'm going to bring in Mike Phillips. Hello, Mike. How are you?
Hey, y'all. How you doing, Roy?
I'm doing good. As I was telling him, you're one of the local guys who, whenever I walk into the store, you're always there with a friendly, what do you need? How can I help you?
Yeah,
Let's
man.
talk shop. So if you wouldn't mind, give a brief overview to everyone as to who you are and what you do.
Yeah, so I'm Mike Phillips. I'm a Virginia Beach native. I moved here when I was 4. I'm a paddle sports manager at Great Outdoor Provision Co. in Hilltop, Virginia Beach, Virginia. I'm also an ACA L3 certified sea kayak instructor. I regularly sea kayak surf and do some sea kayaking here locally in Virginia Beach.
Awesome. So if you wouldn't mind, give me like a brief rundown of what your role is as a paddle manager at the Great Outdoor Provision Company.
Yeah, so I handle the bulk of the paddle sports department of our store in Hilltop. That includes managing of the inventory. That means getting people what they need. That means tailoring kayaks to a specific need. That includes also receiving of inventory, making sure all the boats are ready to go. I also do repairs, I do installs, and then we also do warranty work with all of our vendors.
Awesome. So give me a rundown of how you help people find a kayak. So let's say I were to come in.
Yeah.
I have a quite obvious question you're going to ask me, you know? So let's say someone comes in. What's your rundown of like working them through picking the right kayak for them?
Yeah, so one of the biggest things that I ask, if it's not readily apparent to begin with, is are we fishing or are we not fishing? From there, it kind of like splits off into a pretty dramatic branch of kayaks that are right for somebody. Because you don't really want to fish in like what I paddle most of the time. And if you want to fish, then you should be looking at something else. But if you don't want to fish, then you can paddle into something a lot different than what you would fish in. So that takes out a lot of stuff out of there already. And then the kind of water you want to paddle in, fresh water can be a lot more calmer than salt water, depending on where you're going. If we're getting into like the ocean or the Chesapeake Bay kind of stuff, then there's a lot of things that cut out that category too. So there's a lot of variables that go into there. Like what kind of place you're fishing, what kind of water, what the conditions that you might experience at that, when you're using this kayak. So those are just some of the questions.
Do you guys sell like river kayaks and stuff like that too?
We do, yeah. We actually even sell some whitewater kayaks, but you probably won't find those at our store in Virginia Beach just because, obviously we don't have any whitewater here. So But we have 9 stores in total. The farthest west, I think, is Greensville. Um, but we also, have one in Charlotte. We have one in Charlottesville. So there's a few stores that have access to some whitewater. So you'll see a bit more diversified inventory in some of those other stores.
Mm. So how often do you have someone come in who is like bound and determined to get a kayak, but it's not the right one for them?
Oh yeah, I mean that happens every now and then. And that's why I ask all those questions. If someone's coming to me, and they want to go in the ocean, but like they want to get one of the flattest and widest kayaks that we have, I'm gonna tell them you're probably gonna have a rough experience with this if the water picks up into some rougher conditions. If someone was, picking a kayak that was really skinny and had a deep V to it, and they wanted to stand up and fish out of it, well, then they're probably going to have a bad experience. It's not going to be very easy to stand up in something like that.
Yeah, I can imagine the online visual perception of what you like versus actually seeing it. So that's
Yeah.
the cool thing about actually interacting. Because I know that I've come in before, we've chatted about things, and
Mhm.
we've walked around, looked at different items. It's really good to have that interaction. So,
Yeah.
how often do you overcome those headstrong people? Do you feel like you've got a good track record of steering them in the right direction?
I do. Yeah. Yeah. And I mean, like, it's all about presenting the real world scenario that they're going to come into contact with. And then, directly translating that information that you give them into how the kayak is going to perform based on all the features that you can show them on the kayak, particularly with a hull.
Hmm.
If someone's going out and they think they're going to have one experience because they think the kayak's going to handle one way, but the hull design leads to a whole different handling outcome, then they're just not going to have fun.
Now, let me ask you this, because I worked in the automotive industry for a while, and I've seen
Mhm.
people come in who are, I would consider them to be extremely unknowledgeable
Mhm.
and willing to take direction, but they bring someone who is the dominant incorrect person. I'll say they think they know everything, but they don't. Do you ever
Yeah.
run across those?
Sometimes, and there's an aspect of retail salesmen that when you're hearing what people are giving you as far as information for what they want to do,
Hmm.
um, and you can pick up on certain stuff like that where, like, okay, this person feels really really set in their ways. They know what they want, so I'm then at that point I'm just here to give you what you want. I'm always a trove of knowledge, so that
Hmm.
you can always ask me those questions or even any more questions. But sometimes, yeah, I do run into that every now and then. um, but in that same aspect, I'm still here to give you what you need. So
Yeah.
uh, we do a lot of times have someone that knows exactly what they want, and is the right thing for them, in my opinion. And I'm
Hmm.
like, great, yeah, let's get you going, man.
Easy peasy.
Yeah.
She's like, what color?
Right. Yeah, yeah. Do you like the color I got? Because I can still get it your color.
I know a guy.
Yeah.
So what should someone, let's go the fishing route. So what should the first consideration be for someone who's going to come into a shop?
Yeah.
Um, what should I think of first?
Well, so the first question I asked, after we've established that we're going fishing,
Hmm.
is, are we fishing freshwater or saltwater?
Hmm.
If they're telling me freshwater, then there's a lot of things that will work in freshwater, um, that you can also use in saltwater. But if we're talking mainly freshwater, and depending on if we're just doing inshore or if we're doing off, just near shore, or lightly offshore, like the Chesapeake Bay Bridge Tunnel,
Hmm.
let's say to the first island or the second island, um, then you want something a little different. Because you're gonna run into a lot of different aspects. If you're just inshore fishing, sometimes we do have a few places that are about like 15, maybe 20 feet deep here in the inshore waters that we have in
Hmm.
like the Elizabeth River. Actually, there's probably even like 30 feet depths or 40 feet in the Elizabeth River. Um, But those are small river conditions. If you get the wind picking up and something like that, you're not going to have like a few foot swell to deal with that you're going to have to push this big fishing kayak through. If you want to go to the bay or the ocean, then there's a lot less options that are going to be ideal for that.
Right. And I feel that knowing the local area, so versus getting, let's say, a mail order item, instead of going and talking to someone such as yourself, I know locally, if I told you I was going to fish saltwater, you would want to know where, because like the Lesnar is that water moves.
Yeah, it's killed.
Yes. And then some of the people that have flipped there weren't even found there. They were found miles away because it moves so fast.
Yep.
So,
yeah,
I think that's
I wouldn't want to give you a really wide kayak to take to the Lesnar Bridge, just like I wouldn't want to give you a really skinny kayak to fish, inshore waters.
Right. Yeah. So, also, I want to ask you, and I think for those that don't know, how does the shape of the kayak fit better for paddling versus a motor, let's say?
Yeah. So if you're paddling, I want you to think of like in an actual fishing boat, like motorized boats. I want you to compare like a poling skiff to a bay boat. When you look at a poling skiff is very flat, and it's got a lot of width to it. A bay boat has a very deep V. That V cuts through the water a lot better than the poling skiff does. So if you're paddling, you want something a lot more similar to that V. You want it to cut through the water a lot better, and you want it to kind of slice through there in a way that it creates a different water pressure than if you had something just flat on the top of the water. But at the same time, if you were in like really calm waters most of the time, there's boats like the Bonafide SKF 117 that are very flat, but they still paddle pretty well. So, you got to keep into account how much, if you're going to deal with waves, how big are these waves going to be, and how much do we need to cut through that?
So it's hard to find like the one size fits all, but there are some that could be good for both paddling, and so that's where coming to a local shop would be a good place to start. So
exactly, yeah.
So I've noticed on your social media, you don't use a lot of times. You don't use a traditional fishing kayak. You have a little speedboat, as it were. What type of kayak do you personally use now?
Yeah, so I'm a sea kayaker. So we use what's generally considered a sea kayak to be. Mine's generally a little bit short. It's at 14 and a half feet, and it's 23 inches wide. It's a sit inside. So you're part of my body. My buttocks is a little bit below the water line, and then some of it's a little bit above. Those are really ideal sea kayaks. Sometimes you can get into an 18-foot sea kayak, and those are going to slice right through the water. They're going to have a lot more speed than any fishing kayak that you'll be able to find. And a lot of times, because they're sit inside, you can capsize them, use the power of your paddle and the power of your core to flip the whole thing back up. So you're not really going to be able to do that in any kind of fishing kayak that's out there. You can probably get close in some of them, but you would need to modify them in a little bit of a way to accommodate to keep your body in it. So it's a very specific kind of thing. Definitely sit in sides are generally what I'm going to use. You can find some sea kayaks that are sit on tops. Most of those are generally referred to as surf skis. They're very, very skinny, even skinnier than mine. Sometimes they're like 19, 20 inches, and they're very long. They can be up to like 21 feet. But those are even a little bit of a skill level above me. So I'm still just breaking the water here as it goes to the whole area of paddling.
So when you first did your introduction, you gave your certifications. Can you tell me what they are and how you got them?
Yeah, so I am ACA certified L3 sea kayak instructor. Those range from generally you start at L2 and you can go all the way up to L5.
Hmm.
The representation behind that is basically the level of skills that you're teaching and the level of conditions that you can teach in. The higher you go in the number, the worse the conditions are that you're going to be dealing with out there, and the higher the level, the more you can teach in those higher conditions, and the more you go up in those conditions, the more skills that are going to be required of you to know and to master.
Hmm.
And that is the American Canoe Association, the ACA, and there are also people that are registered to teach people like me that are becoming instructors, and then there's people that are like me that can teach people who are just looking to become paddlers. So I couldn't teach an instructor or someone who's trying to become an instructor to be an instructor. So to do that, I would have to go a few tiers above where I'm at now to be able to get that kind of certification.
It's like karate.
Yeah.
A white belt can't teach a black belt.
Yeah. And I love your question there. Will the
Mhm.
person's weight make a difference in a kayak choice? Absolutely. Even in the sea kayaking world, depending on how big or small a person is, you have to fit them for that kind of kayak. Even when you're doing fishing kayaks, you still have to keep into account the weight capacity that goes on there. And what goes into the weight capacity is not only yourself and everything you have with you, but it goes into the boat's weight itself. So you have to factor that into your weight capacity.
Yeah, that was a big thing. I know Chad Hoover was pushing that transparency across the industry wide about when it gives you the weight limit of the boat,
Mm-hmm.
let it be true weight limit, not because that got me when I first started. I'm not a light fellow, and my
Mm-hmm.
first boat was my weight limit. Well, I got in it, and it was like, nope. Then if
Yeah,
you put
yeah.
anything on top of it, so my first year, I think I went through 3, maybe 4 kayaks to get to one that was right for me, and then I
Yeah.
ended with the New Canoe Unlimited, which is a beautiful boat.
Yeah.
So
That thing's got like a 650 weight capacity.
yes, so it's enough for me and my lunch,
All that stuff.
all that stuff. So did you get your accreditation locally, or did you have to go somewhere for that?
No, actually, I had to. There aren't any. So to be able to teach someone like me, you have to be an instructor, trainer, educator. There aren't any instructor, trainer, educators in the Hampton Roads area, so I had to go all the way south to Charleston, South Carolina, to someone that I knew from somebody
Mhm.
to get that certification.
Interesting.
Yeah.
So it doesn't. It sounds to me like it's an elite status. Like there's not a lot of you out there. Would
I
that be a
wouldn't say
fair?
that. No, I think it's just subjective to our area.
Mm,
Our area is very kayak fishing dominated, not skill paddling dominated. While I have been meeting a lot more skill paddlers, and what I mean by that is like we're solely paddling. We're not fishing. We're not doing anything else. We're only paddling, and we're paddling into things that no kayak fisherman would ever really want to be in. If you're in the kind of scenarios that we're putting ourselves in, then you're doing something wrong if you're kayak fishing. Um,
yeah.
so that's what we're referring to. There's some of us out there. So I'm a sea kayaker. There's some other people that do outrigger canoes, which is a very skinny boat with like a kind of arm out there on one side. There's also surf skiing, like I mentioned earlier, and then just like general expedition paddling. Uh, and there's just not a whole lot of that kind of demographic in
Mhm.
this area. But if you were to go to the West Coast, it's a very common thing to find large
Oh,
groups of skill paddlers, sea kayakers, surf skiers, and the guiding scene and the instruction scene is a lot bigger out there.
now do you feel like it's a growing scene here on the East Coast, and Could you see yourself being a tour guide for people in the future?
I could, and sometimes I do see glimpse of the my kind of demographic growing in the area.
Mm-hmm.
I don't see a whole lot of young people doing it yet. Um, Most of the people and the instructors that I know are within, I would say, the 50s to mid 70s range.
Mm-hmm.
Most of the instructors I know actually are like in their 60s and 70s. So it's not something that I'm seeing a whole lot of young people pick up on right now.
Mm-hmm.
I'm only 32, and I go to something called the Kittapeak Sea Kayak Symposium, run by Cross Current Sea Kayaking.
Mm-hmm.
I just gone to my second year about a week ago, and there were, out of about 70 to 80 paddlers, there were about 15 or so that were under 60.
Mm-hmm.
So it's slowly growing for,
Yeah.
millennials and Gen Zs and, that age group, but not as steadily as kayak fishing has become.
Right. It has. I think it would have to be something more like an X Games type of event to get a lot of like youth involved. Like some of
Right.
the stuff I've seen you do, that's pretty. I mean, you're bolting along. Do you know how fast you go?
Not yet, but I'm trying to figure out a way to be able to figure that out. I don't bring my phone with me
Mm-hmm.
because, I'm rolling around all the place in the water all the time, and I really don't want to lose my phone. So, uh,
Because I
I
think with
think,
your GoPro, because I think you say the GoPro 12,
yeah,
I
yeah,
think when
yeah.
you get that remote, it does GPS functionality.
I think you're right.
So then because
Um,
I would say if I had to put a number on it, I think you're probably going close to 20 miles an hour, or if not
that's
more.
Yeah, I think that's about safe. Maybe not more. I would be surprised if it was more than 20 miles an hour.
Yeah.
Um, but yeah, I mean, sometimes on a good day with a good swell, yeah, you can pick up some serious speed.
Yeah.
Um, what I'm surfing now is a 14 and a half foot boat, but I'm saving up for a actual dedicated surf kayak,
Hmm.
with fins and everything, and you can carve just like a surfer on a surfboard would. I'll probably get a little bit more speed out of that once I get
Is
that.
it shorter?
Yeah, they're generally a bit shorter. They're like 9 feet maybe,
Hmm.
and it's flat like a surfboard, and it's got a very big curve on it, so that if you dip down, it's not going to just pole vault into the water. Um, they're made out of like carbon fiber most of the time, and they're like 20 pounds. It'll be really fun. I'll pick up some speed on that.
So Cut Your Kids Outdoors says take your time and go demo what you think you like and do lots of research. But most
Absolutely.
importantly, demo before you buy. So that's another good thing about local shops, at least for you guys. You guys do it on the water demo days, don't you?
Yeah, yeah. So at least once every year now, around May,
Hmm.
we have our demo event, which will have more than a few brands of kayaks. Your big ones will have the Hobies, Jacksons, Old Town, um, New Canoes, even,
Hmm.
and it's a chance for a lot of people to register up for this event and come out to one local area, which has a really, really good spot for us to just push people off the sand and get a good smooth area to try out a kayak. And you can take it around a small area. We
Hmm.
may not be able to go fishing with you that day, but you'll be able to know, one, if the kayak works for you, and two, is it comfortable, and three, is it something that I would do often.
I know the ones that I've been to, you've had reps from a lot of the brands there as well. So you can actually talk to people that are on the teams,
Yeah.
and they'll give you a little feedback and insight into. And what I found to be interesting is even though they're on the team, they tell you what they don't like about it as much as they like about it.
Yeah.
So that way they're full disclosure type. They're like, I
Yeah.
love this seat, but I don't like this rudder. I
Yeah.
would change this, or
Yeah. I mean, I even do the same thing when I'm selling to people. Like I said earlier, I'm not like the salesman. Like, I want to get you what's right for you,
mhm.
even if that means telling you my honest opinion about one aspect of the boat that I don't like. Because I mean, in a perfect world, yeah, we can have everything that we like on one boat, but a lot of times, not every boat is like that.
Right.
So I got to be honest with myself too.
So as far as accessories go, I mean, do you try to figure out what their end goal is for accessories are when you're doing a boat? Because I know some they don't have all the rail systems, and some have more rails than you've ever imagined. So,
Right.
do you try to go down that path as well? And
Oh yeah, yeah. So one of the questions I ask is how much stuff do you want to take with you?
Mhm.
If someone looks at me and is like, dude, I take a lot of stuff. I'm like, all right, then you want a boat with a lot of tracks already on it. I'll get you a black pack or a crate for you to put all that stuff in. I can talk to you about what size tackle boxes that we have. Do we have 3600 sizes or do we have 3700? How many you like to take with you? Where have you put that before in the past? Can you reach back all the way and get your rod holder? Do you need rod holders up front because you can't do that? All that kind of stuff.
Mhm.
Sometimes, though, a lot of people don't know what to get. And I'm like, all right, just start with the bare basics. Just take the boat. There's rod holders behind you. There's a few tracks up front. Go out once, figure out what you need, what you don't need. Come back to me, and you get a year's worth of 10% off any in-store paddle sports accessories that we have once you bought your boat. So, I can always, outfit people
Mhm.
after each one of their experiences.
That's awesome. So we're gonna work our way into now safety gear essentials.
Yeah.
So, what's the number one piece of safety gear you believe every kayaker should own?
This right here. This is my PFD. If I'm wearing it through this whole episode, so can you. This one is specific for my kind of paddling. If you're not a very good swimmer, you want a high float PFD. I'm not very big on the inflatable PFDs.
Mhm.
Some of you may have known Tim Riley from TKAA. He did that video where he pulled that in my
Mhm.
shop, and it's only going to pick up your head. Which, if you're unconscious, all right, it might lift your head up above the water and keep your head above if you're unconscious. But that's a
Mhm.
big if, and you have to actually pull that thing. If you're unconscious, you're not going to be able to pull that thing.
Right.
So always wear your PFD. I don't care what you're doing. Wear it. It's
Right.
going to save your life.
So Chad Hoover's pushing a big initiative now. It's called No Wear, No Share. So, and
Right.
I've told him, and I'm going to do the same thing. If anybody submits to me any articles, the images that they're not wearing their PFD, it's not going to make it in. It's just not going to do
Yep.
it. I mean, we just lost someone on Toledo, and um, not that it would have prevented anything, but it would have saved time. And
Yeah.
like we were discussing before, I have a wife and two kids, and if I go out fishing, and if they have to wait multiple days to find out um, my reality,
Right. Right.
that's a lot of mental anguish that could have just
Mm-hmm.
been saved. And so, how many PFDs do you have? Because I have several. I have one. Like if I'm going to go shallow, I have my like inflatable that I
Yeah.
wear.
So
Eh,
I have several. What my kind of paddling. Sometimes it has its demands. Sometimes I'm really really calm out there and I'm just chilling. Um, this one I have on right now is the Astral Blue Jacket. They renamed it to the Bowen.
mhm.
It's a side entry and a pullover, so it should be very tight on your body. It's got one pocket right in the middle here that keeps all your stuff,
Mhm.
and then it has some stuff on here on the side for like ropes and such if you're rescuing. But this is a Class 3 PFD.
Mhm.
Almost all of them that I have are Class 3 PFDs because of the style of paddling that I do. But if you're doing kayak fishing, you should have a Type 5, Class 5 PFD. They're going to be higher float, which means that they're going to have more foam in it that's going to lift you up into the water.
Mhm.
It's also going to wear a lot differently. A lot of those are going to have zippers in the front, or they're going to have buckles in the front for you to take it off really easily if you need to. This is another one of mine here. This is the Astral YTV. It's a low float, so it's based for freestyle paddling, which is
Mhm.
even crazier than what I'm doing, I think. This is very minimal. It's very out of the way. It's allows you to have a lot of free range of motion to do the different paddling techniques that we do. Um, there's also high float PFDs that are not only for paddling like we do, but for fishing as well.
Mhm.
And then there's the inflatables, like I mentioned earlier. So you have the ones that you inflate with your pulling the cable, but there's also the automatic ones. So those goes off a sensor inside the PFD that will go off if it's exposed to water. Sometimes that can be a problem because if you just get splashed, then then it'll go off. So you
Right.
don't always want to have those.
Yeah, Classy said she started out in peaceful water, but she started wearing it because of her kids. Now
Yeah.
she preaches the PFD. So yeah, that's the thing. It's like it's crazy not to wear it. It's crazy not to do it.
It is.
Um, and it reminds me of like when they first started saying seatbelts. They're like, oh, I don't want to wrinkle my clothes.
Yeah.
Oh, it's going to leave a mark. Well, it's going to leave a bigger mark when your head goes through the steering wheel.
Yeah.
So,
Exactly.
and you can. That's the one thing I would not skimp on, in my opinion, is the PFD. Like
Absolutely.
everyone wants to get the best kayak, they want to get the best electronics, but when they hear the price of, let's say, a $200 life jacket, they're like, that's way too much. Like,
Yeah. It gets even worse when we go to like dry suits. People that want to fish in the winter and don't want to spend the money on a dry suit. Well, that's the difference between life and death.
yeah. Let's see here. Hold on.
Oh, they do. They sure do make some good PFDs for women. I want you to look up the Astral Layla. That is one of my favorite ones to fit for women. A lot of them don't take into account the bust, so they have a lot of foam here. That one has a contour in the foaming here, so it makes it a lot better for women's fit. And it's also a side zip entry, so you're not having a lot of bulk collect right here in the center. So look that one up, though.
It says the Layla,
Yeah, it's the Astral Layla.
which is why so many women go with inflatables.
Yeah,
Yeah, the inflatables are
don't blame
good,
them.
but they've got a time and a place for it. Like you just. I know that if I'm going saltwater, I'm not taking my inflatable because I don't
Right.
want to have to worry about that. I've dumped my kayak near the concrete ships before,
Yeah,
and I was wearing a normal, not an inflatable. And if
yeah,
I thought to myself, if it didn't inflate or I had to pull something, so many things were happening at once. Gear was going down. I was trying to grab that. I was trying to make sure things were going everywhere. I just didn't have the time to worry about floating. Does that make
right.
sense? So,
Yeah, yeah.
but what else do you recommend for like safety gear? I mean, we've covered the PFD. I feel like we've beaten that horse a little bit.
Yeah, yeah. So
But
another thing I think all fishermen should have on their kayaks is a bilge pump.
Mhm.
All those fishing kayaks, a lot of them have so many different hatches, so many different, twist hatches, flip hatches that are built into the boat. Ones that they have the gasket on there with the twist and seal like you do on the Hobies.
Mhm.
Not one of those is completely watertight. And if you flip a boat, all of the weight from the boat is basically creating pressure for the water to push up into the boat. So no matter how air or how watertight you think those hatches are,
Mhm.
your boat will begin to fill up as soon as you flip it. And once you get it right up, you're going to need to get all the water out because you're going to have a really, really heavy kayak. And it's going to sink a lot lower, or sorry, not sink, but it's going to draft a lot lower in the water, and it's going to be a lot harder to get through the water. So you need to get all that weight, all that water weight out somehow, and you need to have this with you. And you need to put it in somewhere that's going to be accessible to you. A lot
Mhm.
of times I see people that bring their boats into my shop for repairs, and this thing is wedged up inside the kayak in a place where you're never going to be able to get it if you're sitting in that seat. So you need to make sure it's somewhere where you can get it if you need it.
Have you ever seen any kayaks with electric bilge pumps?
I have, yeah. And it's funny you say that because I was at the Sea Kayak Symposium this a couple weeks ago, and I noticed one that had been built into somebody's sea kayak.
Hmm.
And I'd never seen that before, and I was wondering how he powered it up. But he kind of ran into an issue where he's like, I can't find a battery small enough to like fit in a sea kayak. So I don't know if he was able to do it, but yeah, I have seen that before.
Yeah, I've often wondered about that, especially with like the new canoe. It's so big, and
Yeah,
it'd be difficult to get to the hatches and stuff. But I do have a bilge that I'm not going to lie to you, I don't take it with me.
yeah.
Maybe after this. Maybe after
I'll
this.
get you in the head with it next time. You're my
Yes.
stop.
So what else? So what else do you have? I know you brought some other things. You have something
Yeah.
else that
So, just a couple things that I usually bring with me. One of them here. This is a throw bag. It's a very common thing to find in whitewater. All it is a bunch of rope in a bag, and this bag has this quick opening here. Kind of snaps, and it just kind of opens like that. And then you basically just pull this through, and then I'm gonna hold this part, and I'm gonna throw it with this handle here at somebody in the water that needs to be rescued. I'll generally take this if I was bridge fishing, because I've seen people kind of get pushed up against the piling by the current, and it flips them, away from the piling, and sometimes they can't really get off the piling. So you want to have something to kind of throw to them so that they can pull themselves off of the piling, because you don't want to get right next to it either.
right, or like in the undertow situation.
Exactly.
Yeah. Plus, when you were showing that, I was thinking to myself, if there's a man overboard, yes, but also if you're going to be towing someone, a lot of times you don't want to come right alongside them because
Right.
things can go bad. Whereas that you could just chunk it to them, and you could do a long tow to get them where they need to
Exactly.
go.
Yeah.
So that's
Or if you're like in the Lesnar Bridge and you see someone that's capsized, but the current's moving you guys too much and you can't really get over to him, just throw this over to him and start pedaling backwards, whatever you got to do to stop yourselves.
Are there any like overlooked things that make a big difference? Like I know that we've gone over the items you recommend, but are there some things that you take all the time, but other people take for they just don't know about it?
Yeah.
Like,
I would say a VHF radio is something that should really, really be considered. I know they're kind of a high cost item sometimes. It's generally you're generally not going to find one under $150. But there have been scenarios where I've been fishing the Bay Bridge Tunnel, for instance, and you hear a pon go out, which is a serious emergency. You'll hear securite, you'll hear pon, and you'll hear mayday. The severity of the situation goes up in the terminology, and a lot of times, well, maybe not a lot of times, but sometimes you can hear one of those go off, and it might be close to you. So you can one, help somebody that might be in need, and if you are in need, then if you have that radio on you, you can make an emergency call out and be rescued. So that could mean a lot in a survival situation.
Yeah, I know my brother did EMS, and a lot of times if there were an issue, like even if he couldn't provide the help needed, he could relay what was needed. So that would be good. Like there's 8 people on board, it's going down. Then
Yeah.
they know the skiff they have won't hold 8 people. They need a bigger boat, or they need
Right.
a helicopter. So
Yeah.
that's a good. Would you recommend one of those radios for like freshwater, or do they still use that in freshwater? Or
So those work off of line of sight. So a lot of freshwater freshwater environments, you're going to be around a lot of tree cover. If you're inland, then you're going to have to deal with mountains. So depending on where you are in our coastal environments, it'll typically work just about everywhere you're going to be on the water fishing here, because we don't really have much terrain blocking that signal.
right.
And depending on which one you have or how powerful it is, then if you get one that's not that powerful, then yeah, you're probably only going to get like maybe 10, 20 miles out of that thing. But most of the ones that you're going to buy that have the floating, the emergency, your coordinates, they'll have enough strength to get to where you need. But if you're if you got a lot of things in between you, then it's not going to work as well. Then in that case, you would just want like your your standard walkie-talkies that you use, going hunting, like your shortwave radios or something like that. But in that instance,
Hmm.
there's a lot of variables that go into that as far as is it going to be helpful. A lot of freshwater environments, you're limited as far as your launch access.
Hmm.
Your on the water authorities. So response time is going to be an issue when you get to that kind of factor.
Most freshwater hide from the game warden.
Right. Yeah, that's what I'm thinking, man.
Yeah.
So,
Like,
saltwater, they're going to see you a couple miles out because, we ain't
yes.
got that much in between us.
So, 2 questions. Do you carry a flare kit? Because I know Orion makes a paddlecraft flare kit that I personally have, and I figured that would be good freshwater or salt. If you're in the middle of the lake and you see a flare, you get like there's something going on. That's not normal.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah.
do you carry a flare kit with you, or do you not figure you don't need one where you paddle? 'Cause you have a
So
radio?
when I did fish the Bay Bridge Tunnel, from Chicks Beach to the Bay Bridge Tunnel is, I think, 3.2 miles, give or take. I might be a little wrong there. Haven't checked it in a while.
Mhm.
But to my knowledge, I believe you have to have flares on you if you're, I think, 3 miles offshore. So I did carry a flare with me when I was doing that, but
Mhm.
I haven't carried one with me any other time. But at the same time, I haven't had any, fish and game or, marine police stop me and be like, "Hey, do you have your flare?" Or let alone stop me while I was out there. So I don't even know if you actually do need it or not, but I did bring it in that instance.
Okay. My second question is, I know that a lot of people, um, they don't, but everyone should. Do you do like a float plan with someone when you go to let
I tell
someone know?
someone where I'm going every time. You know, unless you're living alone and like you have like no one is expecting you, then even still I'd prefer you tell somebody.
Hmm.
But yeah, almost all of us that are on the water have someone that's going to be looking for us if we don't show up somewhere. So if you're taking a little longer than normal, then they're not going to know what's going on. They might thinking that you're supposed to have been already back. Yeah, just always tell somebody where you're going, and then at the least just tell them when you're done, you get off the water. Hey, off the water, so
Yep.
that they can rest easy.
Yeah, I think that's a often missed easy step. If you're supposed
Yeah,
to be back at 5 o'clock and you're not back at 5:30, then they know that something's going on, and that quick response might help with whatever's going on. Hopefully, it's just mechanical, but
yeah, and tell them where you're going too. The cops show up to your wife's house, and you're like, all right, well, he was fishing. All right, well, where is he fishing, ma'am? I don't know. He didn't tell me.
he won't share his waypoints.
Right. So where are they going to find you?
He said he's where the big fish are. So
Yeah. They're not going to find you until someone does find you, your
that's
body.
true. So, um, so with your paddling and stuff that you do, I know you got the upper level training. What are some common mistakes people make when they go out? Uh, what I'm trying to ask is, I know that a lot of people go out and their kayak all of a sudden stops working,
Hmm.
and they have to pick up this foreign object that's just strapped to their kayak and use it. What are your recommendations for people that when the mechanical stops and they have to go manual,
Yeah.
preparing for that scenario?
Right. I'm actually really glad you asked me this. So, a lot of your viewers and a lot of people that come into my shop, we're going to be familiar with boats like the Bonafide XTR or the Wilderness Systems Tactical Pro 128 or the Hobie Pro Angler or the Old Town Autopilots.
Hmm.
Um, not one of those was really designed to paddle. The Pro Angler, you get a paddle with that, but I've had to paddle a Pro Angler 12 when I have broken
Hmm.
one of my drives and it wouldn't pedal no more. Um, and it was not a very good experience. So you have to account for when, not if,
Hmm.
you have to paddle it. do you want to paddle that boat, or do you want to paddle something that's going to actually paddle? Um, and a lot of boats, I will say the Jackson drives are very, very reliable. I
Mhm.
haven't had someone come back to me and been like, "Hey, the drive broke, and I had to paddle this huge Jackson Nar all the way to shore." So you do have more reliable ones, of course. But yeah, I would always take into account the possibility of having to paddle whatever you're getting into. Even if it's a motorized, especially if it's a motorized one, sometimes,
Mm.
s- you know, electronics can fail. No matter how good you are at what you're doing,
Mhm.
things happen.
Yeah, that's the I paddle from time to time my unlimited, and I
Yeah,
know how much of a struggle that is.
yeah,
I can only imagine being offshore, and now I've got to do that.
right.
So it could be a matter of life or death for some people because
Yeah,
it's
yeah,
you went from doing nothing to now you're doing like a endurance training, and
yep,
that's when your float plan is going to go into action. So,
yeah,
or you get on your radio and you like, hey, come help me.
yeah, yeah,
Hey, Mike, you still got that throw bag? Prove
yeah,
it.
exactly.
So, all
I
right.
got this
So,
too. I'm gonna hit you with it.
yes, like, show me that bilge pump.
Yeah,
Like, crap, you got me. So, now I only fish close to shore or in shallower areas because I know that if my body leaves my kayak, I'm not going to be able to get back in it very well.
right.
But you teach classes on reentry, do you not?
I do, yeah. So, along with my sea kayaking instructions that I offer, I also offer to teach you how to flip your boat, and when it does flip, how to flip it back over and how to get back in it on your own boat. I take people to a place where I can stand in the water right next to them,
Hmm.
uh, and then where they are within arm's length of me, they cannot stand in the water. So it's easy to pull somebody back into that area if they need to stand. But when you flip your kayak, you're not going to be able to stand. So we're going to simulate what would happen if you do flip your kayak in an area where you can't stand, and we got to get you back in there. Because I can guarantee a lot of people that I sell kayaks to are not going to be able to do this. Especially the people that buy some of the bigger boats. They're like, yeah, this thing is super stable. It's not going to flip. I'm not going to come out of this thing. I don't have to worry about that. It's such a misconception. Like it's going to happen at some point,
Right.
and you need to be ready for it.
Yeah, I know that I went to one of the on the water days with you guys, and I got in the Hobie Mike Iaconelli edition, and I was
Yeah,
like, I love this. But the minute I got in it, I was like, this isn't to me what I thought it was going to be
right,
stability wise. So I
right.
could see myself going out of it quickly. So it sort of scared me a little bit.
Yeah.
So and that's the thing is so have you encountered people of the plus size that have taken your reentry, and how did that fare? I mean, are you able to get someone who has less than stellar
I
physiques
have
to?
I haven't yet, but I am excited at the opportunity that affords.
Mhm, not it.
Yeah, let's do it, dude.
Let's
I'm
do it. Yeah. So let me ask you
gonna throw
this.
you
Okay.
around, man.
So if you saw someone, so I came to you and said,
Yeah.
I want to be able to get back into my kayak. I feel like I'm not physically ready to do it yet. Are there exercises or things that you recommend that I could do to get certain things, certain areas of my body more in tune to get into the kayak?
Yeah. So one thing that I think helps everybody in a lot of different situations,
Hmm.
whether regarding what your body needs as far as physical activity,
Hmm.
swimming is one of the best things that can you know tone a lot of parts of your body and kind of focus on those muscles that you don't always use. Um, and then cardio. Cardio is something that's very overlooked in this kind of thing. When I'm
Hmm.
teaching the sea kayak rescues, I tell people that there's usually like 2 or 3 times or 2 or 3 attempts that you get at this, because after those attempts, you're going to be so tired, it's going to be really, really hard to do. And that goes doubly for trying to get back on these fishing kayaks because they're so huge and there's so many different obstacles that you're going to have to go over. If you're, someone that's got, all the 10 rods on the back of your, Yak Attack Black Pack, and they're
Mm-hmm.
still sticking right up out of the water because you've done a really good job of tethering your gear. So you're going to have to deal with that, and it's going to be that much more tiring to get through that. And your lungs and your heart need to keep up with that.
Or you have your dual monitors in the center. You've got your bow mount trolling motor, your stuff in the back. And you like, where do I get into this thing at?
Right.
So that's another. I have thought about that, but I didn't really think about like where's my entry point at, because I've always been told that the easiest place to get in is the bow on like canoes and stuff like that. Like it's easier to just. I've never done it, so I'm speaking from not doing it. But and then I've seen Chad Hoover. He got in. I watched him because he fit into sort of my demographic. Not quite as big as I am, but he showed that it could be done. How to power up in and get in. But he got in from the side, so.
Yeah, and it really depends on the boat. Like, some of the boats, they have a really elongated bow where it doesn't have a whole lot of stability in the bow. If you try and get there, it's going to feel really tippy as you're sitting on the front of it. So that's one of the things that we address when we're going through this kind of thing with myself and another person in the water. And you'll get a first-hand experience. Like you'll jump on there and you'll be like, "Oh, this isn't working," and I'll be all right. Step back. What happened there?
Yeah, one of the things I picked up early on because I knew that I would have trouble was it's a sort of like your throw rope, but it has a stirrup on one end.
Yes.
And then you can pull it, and I can use that as a step to kick up and in. Yeah. I've never used it, and I've wanted to put the kayak in my in-laws' pool and just try it,
right?
Because I don't want to jump over in the water. I can't see what's beneath me. I mean, I've seen sharks, I've seen stuff, but yeah, classy kayaker over here trying to get me some click points by dropping my pants trying to get in the kayak. That's what's going to happen. Everything's going to fall off of me trying to get in. But so how long does a class usually take for you for teaching somebody to get in? Is it a multiple day thing or one shot, or
it can be a multiple day thing if we need to. I usually do, I would say like 1 to 3 hours depending on the physical ability of the person I'm working with. If they're tiring out pretty quick, then it'll usually last only about an hour. But we can fill a lot of knowledge into that hour. Like, you flip your kayak and you try and get back on it, and you're like, oh, this isn't going to work. That's not going to work either. I try to get up over here. That didn't work. You're going to learn a lot from that in that hour. And you'll go home with that knowledge, and you'll think about how to do it another way. And then you can, go back to where we were and try it yourself. Or you can, get back in touch with me and we can try some new stuff.
Oh my goodness. Trying to kill me. What if you get winded on the way to the dock? No, I'm just kidding. So
cardio.
Cardio. So another thing that I know that you guys do from time to time is you do the cold water stuff too. Do you do that? I think that's something that a lot of people do not comprehend is how quickly things go wrong with the I forget the ratio, but it's like if the air temperature and the water temperature don't reach a certain amount, do you know what that is off the top of your head?
I don't know exactly, and I probably should because of the certifications and such. But I mean, for me, a general rule of thumb is, water temperature is 16 below, you need either a wetsuit or, some kind of neoprene. 50 below, you should have a dry suit on. Thing that gets me most is when people wear waders. People are wearing a bucket. That's a bucket you're wearing. Once that bucket fills up, where are you going to go? It's going to go down. Suspenders, waders, they're hip waders, they're death traps.
Right.
When kayaking. And I think if you want to paddle through fish through the winter, I think especially if you're going to fish through the winter in saltwater in like ocean and bay, you need a dry suit. But I would still recommend a dry suit even if you're inshore fishing, you go in and I know a lot of guys that night fish. People are asleep. Not everyone's going to hear you screaming if you fall in the water. And if it's really cold, you're probably not going to be able to scream because you're so winded from the cold water drawing all the breath out of your lungs. So yeah, dry suit. I fished in a dry suit when I would go in the Elizabeth River in the winter. I would do it when I went bay fishing for tog. And I do it now when I sea kayak in the winter. A dry suit, you can get semi-dry suits that have a neoprene neck, unlike this one that I have here. This is a paddling specific one. They have latex gaskets, which are they're skin tight, and it's supposed to create a complete waterproof seal. So this is the neck on my suit. There's a neoprene collar with a latex neck gasket. This latex keeps all the water out. And there's also some on the wrist here too. You got the latex inside with the neoprene there. This is going to keep all the water out. I'll feel a little bit of the bite of the cold water through the suit if I'm not wearing thick enough layers, but I'm not going to be subjected to hypothermia the way I would if I didn't have that suit. And no matter what, you go in the Elizabeth River, Rudy Inlet, the ocean in the winter, seconds is what you have to get out of that water.
Yeah, and I read somewhere that when your body hits a certain degree of water, you have an involuntary gasp. So if you go under in the cold, you immediately inhale water involuntarily. So that helps take that gasp away because it's not a direct hit.
Exactly.
And another thing too is don't go cheap on that suit.
No.
Like they're very expensive, but as we were discussing before we came on, there's a gentleman, Chuck Earls, who every year likes to go wading in the ice to show how good they work. His beard's just covered in chunks of ice, but he's perfectly fine. It's like the PFD. I mean, it's your life. I mean, pay for the good stuff.
You can get one that's like $600, or you can get one that's like $1,400, and that price tag is the difference between your life and death.
So, let's see here. So let me ask you this, because you also said like a wetsuit, and I've heard that the problem with a wetsuit is that you can still get that shock when you go in because it's got that initial hit of cold till it warms up.
You can.
So,
I would say wetsuits are more for your higher physical activity demands. Your body heat is a lot of the factor that keeps you warm in a wetsuit. If you're not very active, that suit is not containing much heat. Well, I mean, it's containing heat, but there's not much heat generated inside that suit to keep you warm. Part of what makes a wetsuit work is the body heat heating the water that's in between your body and the suit. The neoprene works to keep the water warm inside that suit, just like your body heat does. So if you're sitting in a kayak all the time, just doing this, you're not generating much body heat. So that neoprene inside there is not as warm as it should be, and it's not going to warm that water once it actually gets inside the suit. So yeah, that's a very good point you make there.
So how often would you recommend people practice reentry?
As much as possible. If you're getting into kayak and you just bought your kayak, do it before you go out. If you've never done it, do it next time you go out. If the water's too cold, wait till next season. If you don't want to wait till next season, buy a dry suit.
All right. I think we've hit about everything. I don't think there's anything that we missed. Is there anything that you want to cover that we haven't touched on?
I don't think so. I think we covered all the good spots there, man.
Yeah, I would say, one of the dying things in our community is the retail shop that isn't like big box. So I appreciate having you guys right down the street.
Yeah.
appreciate coming in there, and everyone's friendly. You're always there, when you're not out ripping some mean waves.
Yeah.
Uh, Anything that I've ever asked for or needed, if you didn't have it, you told me how I could get it,
Yeah.
what you thought about it. It's just, my dad said, or stay home where it's warm. Yeah, I agree.
Yeah.
So, but yeah, um, have you seen a decline of people coming to you as a store for kayaks? Because it seems like everybody I speak to, it's like they're just shying away from the mom and popish type of places.
I
Do
don't
you
think so.
you don't think so?
Not from what I've seen. I mean, of course, you have your people that really don't, care about the shop. They're like, all right, I'll just buy it however I want to, and I'll get it, whatever. But I'm almost always there. You can always talk to me. You can always even come in the shop and just shoot the shit. I'll talk to you. I've even told people to buy something that's not in my company, something that I couldn't get, but I thought was better for them. And I was like, yeah, you should go to this other place and buy that boat. It wasn't even a fishing kayak, but like it was a sea kayak that worked a lot better than what I had for him. But that's the kind of person that I am, and that's the kind of service that we at Great Outdoor Provision like to offer. So yeah, you ever want to shoot the stuff, you ever got questions for me, just come see me in the shop. I'll talk to you for however long you want. You're never taking up too much of my time. Even if we seem busy, that's what I'm there for. I'm there for you. I'm not there to, I don't make commission. I don't rely on people's buying stuff from me. So yeah, come see me, come ask me some questions, come talk to me about what you want to do. Talk to me about what you did do. Anything. I'm there for whatever.
Perfect. Well, again, I appreciate you coming on. I appreciate all of your knowledge. I appreciate you wearing the PFD to prove a point that if you could do it in the warmth of the home, you could do it out in the water. And just everyone, please wear your safety equipment. I mean,
yes,
I don't like to see anyone fall to something that is so preventable. So, but again, I appreciate you. I'm going to go ahead and throw you in the back here and say goodbye to everyone, and I'll come right back to you.
Thanks, Roy.
No problem. Thank you again. Yeah. All right, everyone. That was episode 38 with Mike Phillips with the Great Outdoor Provision Company. If you're in the Hampton Roads area and you're looking for anyone to teach you how to do reentry or cold water reentry, he's the guy. I'm going to look up his Instagram real quick here. I believe he's the Bald Paddler. Let me ask him. You're the Bald Paddler on Instagram,
I'm the
correct?
Bald Paddler 757.
Bald Paddler 757.
Yeah.
Yep. Sweet. All right, I'm gonna put you back there now. Yeah, the Bald Paddler 757. He does some great stuff ripping up the waves. He has one great video on Instagram where the surfers say, "What happens if you flip your kayak?" And he just goes, whoop, flips it and comes back up and keeps on keeping on. So that's twofold. It shows the younger generation that it's cool to do, and maybe they'll get one. And it also shows that he has skills to roll his kayak in a 2.5 foot swell and come right back to it. So this episode is brought to you by Snake River Manufacturing. Go to snakerivermanufacturing.us and check out all of the kayak trailers that Steve and his crew are putting together. Some amazing stuff. No better way to get your kayak to the water. Also go to Viking Kayaks USA.com and check out all of their wonderful kayaks. They have some great paddlecraft to get you out into the deeper water. Go to kayakcoffee.com and use Cafe 20 to get 20% off of your coffee, as well as Nico's Art Therapy to pick up one of these cups. All of the proceeds go to Nico and his therapy. One last thing, please go to usakfm.com. The October issue that's supposed to go out tomorrow is live on the website, so you can actually see all of the articles and information that are available to people tomorrow, but they're available to you today. So go check it out. Read about Ethan Jett, Dina Davis. There's an article from Wes Littlefield. There's all kinds of stuff in there. So go check it out. Give me some feedback of what you think. Once again, thank you again to everyone that tuned in, and I will see you next week. The giveaway is Tactical's asking about the giveaway. The giveaway is for a black pack, and it's going to be drawn tonight, probably drawn tomorrow, and awarded, I think, a couple days later once I tell Wade who got it. So, again,